Sabbath day, as outside heavy rain a fall, suitably elemental and portentous conditions in which to begin a discussion of one of the most utterly unique and uncompromisingly righteous of DJs, a man indeed who preferred not to be known as a DJ at all, but rather as a chanter, not so much nimbly fitting his lyrics to a rhythm track as bludgeoning it over the head with the sheer blunt force of his seemingly granite-hewn voice, whose imposing sense of physicality seemed to emanate from that booming sound of his voice alone, and sounding for all the world like some Old Testament prophet who had just spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness and had somehow been brought forth to modern times to once again preach righteousness upon the earth. I'm talking about the man called Prince Farai. He was born as Michael Williams on March 23rd, 1945 in Spanish Town, Jamaica. Some sources incorrectly say 1944. He left school quite early, having moved to the Waterhouse neighborhood of Kingston, the capital, and began training as an apprentice welder. In the 1960s, he began gravitating to the many sound systems, playing music at various locations around town. And he had a DJ friend by the name of Prince Ruff, who never recorded, but encouraged Michael Williams to try his hand at picking up the microphone himself, which Michael did, performing initially under the name King Cry Cry. Prince Farai, Michael Williams, his imposing physicality, the scars on his face bearing witness to being very much not of a saint in his early days, reportedly spending some time in prison, but he was a man of complex facets of his personality, and the name King Cry Cry reportedly derived from his habit of uncontrollably bursting into tears when he became upset or angry. He would spend about 3 years performing on a sound called Sir Mike the Musical Dragon, advancing to #1 or lead DJ in the 1960s. When Sir Mike's was sold, he would then move on to a Greenwich Farm-based sound called El Toro. Finally got his first chance to record around 1968, 1969 for producer Bunny Lee, for whom he recorded a song called The Great Booga Wooga. Some sources claim this song was never released, though a white label pre-release is listed on Discogs. However, nothing much came of that song. Michael Williams would then go to work on the docks. He would work as security in a variety of locations, and it was in this aspect that he came to the studio of Coxsone Dodd, Studio One at 13 Brentford Road. Michael Williams employed as a security guard, a bouncer, keeping undesirables out of the studio so that work could progress. One day, Coxsone's top-ranking DJ, King Stitt, reportedly did not show up for a session, and Michael Williams persuaded the boss man, Coxsone, to let him have a shot at the microphone. The ensuing session would see Michael Williams record a few songs for Studio One, most notably I Had a Talk, which would surface in 1971 in the UK on a label called Banana, 7-inch single under the name King Cry Cry. Would do modestly well, but not break Michael Williams through to any great degree, and showed him still very much in a U-Roy influenced style of DJing.
Keep walk, don't talk. Jam juice and jello to need middle like jello. Mikey the brown like the snark on the game while I present another extra. Here's because this is not the man. A civil motive come. When it comes, it shall hit you like a missile. So you keep on skanking, baby, like you never stopped before. You keep on running through the music door. Yeah.
disappointed with his sessions at Studio One, Michael Williams, still billed as King Cry Cry, which in time would also give its name to his own sound system, would take a break from recording, work a variety of jobs, and surface again on record in 1973 on the B-side of a single by vocal group The Cordells, whose song Simpleton was voiced over by Williams in a strange kind of half-sung, half-chanted style as Simpleton Skank. He would do a DJ version of the Slickers classic Johnny Too Bad, which appeared on the Harder They Come soundtrack. First song on side 2, the Slickers, Johnny Too Bad. He would do a DJ version of that as Johnny Get Worse. This appeared on a rare 45 out of Canada on the Tropical Records label, mistakenly credited to Prince Jazzbo, but it is the gruff tones of Michael Williams, still known as King Cry Cry at this point, that are heard on the record. And that song can be heard on the Blood and Fire compilation of early Prince Farai material called Silver and Gold. The cover photo showing Williams in a more jovial, relaxed mood in the kitchen, in opposition to some of the more intimidating aspects of his on-record and off-record personality. And the first song on there is that song, Johnny Get Worse. For producer Winston Riley, Williams would adapt an old country and western standard that had been performed by Tex Ritter and had something of a storytelling aspect to its lyrics that Williams would develop on his own later in his career. This would be released as Deck of Cards, was included on the Trojan Records compilation Keep On Coming Through the Door in the late 1980s. Deck of Cards, retroactively credited to Prince Farai, but still King Cry Cry at this point. However, it is actually a DJ version of that song that is mistakenly included on that release, and the proper vocal version can be found on the Blood and Fire compilation in 1994 called If DJ Was Your Trade, under the different name of Shuffle and Deal, and again retroactively credited to Prince Farai. Shuffle and Deal, the name that was reportedly found on the original tape reel, but it is the same version of that country and western lyric that was recorded for producer Winston Riley. Next up, Williams would link up with independent producer Enos McLeod for a collaboration that would be a momentous moment in his career. He would record a song called Let Jah Arise, in which all the elements of his Williams' personality, his lyrical style came together for the first, perhaps for the first time, fully on record. For this release, producer Enos McLeod would insist on renaming Williams as Prince Farai in honor of their shared devotion to the Rastafarian religion. Williams, apparently not too happy at first, argued a bit, but ultimately acquiesced when McLeod put his foot down and refused to release the record unless it was under the new name. The song Let Jah Arise was released on the Soul Beat and Micron labels as a single in Jamaica and was first included on the compilation The Genius of Enos on Pressure Sounds in the 1990s. Let Jah Arise, the first song by the newly named Prince Farai, and it can also be found on that Blood and Fire compilation, Silver and Gold.
Hey, bro, Max, you see a jack that time man from fire.
No, Dread, where I want to come from? Under your sleeve.
No, but that man shock up the deck, Dread.
No, Dread, shuffle again.
I man into that. Shuffling, I would say, I will keep on shuffle, ruffle. I no shuffle, I no scuffle, I no hustler. When I see the incident, remind me that you were wonder. The deuce reminds that the Bible, the party, the two parts, the old and new testament. When I see the trees, remind me, tree loving spirit never disagree. Let God arise and let his enemy be scattered. Let them that hate thy flee before I, as wax men before the furnace of fire. in that I desire. See ya, leave ya. I am not a rock in ya. Leave ya, I man never leave ya. See ya, hey. Give the king thy praises and the most high, Jah.
With his newly minted name of Prince Farai in place, and his preference for focusing his lyrics on subjects of substance, either drawing from the Bible or commenting on social and political issues, morally and spiritually uplifting topics. He saw his lyrics as something very serious, not something to be trivialized. Michael Williams would continue to record a sporadic series of singles through 1975. His Let Jah Arise song for producer Enos McLeod had been released on the Soul Beat label, but it would also appear on Pete Weston's Micron label. And Prince Farai's next couple of singles would also appear through the Micron setup. Again, we could refer to the Blood and Fire compilation Silver and Gold for this next part of Prince Farai's story. Yes, Joshua would be a song versioning over Max Romeo's No Joshua No, a very politically oriented song from Max Romeo. Farai would do the DJ version of that. Silver and Gold, the title track itself, for the first time would credit Farai as both artist and producer, as he began to realize that he needed to take control of his own music to get ahead in the business. That year, he would set up his own Cry Tough label, the name inspired by singer Alton Ellis's classic song Cry Tough, but on Farai's label, spelled differently, with tough appearing as Tuff. The Cry Tough label would be Farai's vehicle for his own self-productions and his own artistic output. He would also make a return to Studio One that year for one final song, Natty Farmyard, on Larry Marshall's Mean Girl Rhythm, which appears on the Studio One DJs compilation. Prince Farai with Natty Farmyard, commenting on the Ital natural lifestyle, his most assured song for Studio One, showing his progress as an artist. Later in 1975, he would link up with another independent producer, Ivanhoe Smith, known as Lloydie Slim. Lloydie Slim had just recorded a song with another DJ, Tapazuki, called Judge I, O Lord, which drew its lyrics largely from the Bible. Not that unusual for DJs at this time, as the influence of Rastafari grew ever stronger in reggae music. But Lloydie Slim had the idea to do an entire LP's worth of biblical lyrics, specifically from the Book of Psalms, and Prince Farai would be the DJ tapped to deliver this performance. The songs would feature Farai's gravelly voice reciting from the Book of Psalms, giving them an unquestioned sense of authority over a series of rhythms sourced largely from producer Bunny Lee, including cuts of the Sata Massagana rhythm, drum song, and Ronnie Davis's Power of Love. Was supposed to be released again through the Micron label in Jamaica. This did not happen. However, the resulting LP, sometimes called reggae's first concept album, in that it was assembled with a specific purpose, a specific goal in mind, would be released as Psalms for I, the debut album of Prince Farai, belatedly released around 1976 in the UK on a new label called Carib Gems. Carib Gems, a UK label, which one of the partners of was a young white Englishman named Adrian Sherwood. He and Prince Farai would soon factor largely in each other's lives, but at this point they had not yet met. The Psalms for I album has been reissued a number of times by Pressure Sounds in the early 2000s, and more recently by the DKR label out of New York. featuring lyrics almost entirely drawn from the Book of Psalms, as well as the Lord's Prayer and the liner notes, perhaps the first time in print, referring to Prince Farai by his nickname, the Voice of Thunder.
Israel says no to Babylon, not stars, but Sia, but us, of course. Not even no garbage, not even no giving barnyard, not even no in a barnyard, even cultivation in all the not even the mineral. Goliath has slain 1,000, David has slain 10,000. The Lord is I, and I shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh I to lay down in green pasture. He maketh I to lay down in green pasture. He leadeth me beside the still water. He restored I and I soul. He leadeth I in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I and I will fear no evil.
Even as Prince Farai's debut LP, Psalms for I, saw release in the UK in 1976 on the Carib Gems label, that year would also see some of his early self-productions for his own Cry Tough label begin to surface on the UK market as 7-inch singles. These would include his own DJ sides, such as 354 Skank, another in the series of motorcycle-themed DJ songs popular around that time, such as Big Youth's S90 Skank. Also, some of his early productions of other artists, including bass player Errol Flabba Holt, taking a turn as a singer on Farai-produced sides like Gimme and Who Have Eyes to See, often followed by accompanying Prince Farai toasts utilizing the same rhythm tracks. However, Farai, still looking for that big Jamaican hit to truly consolidate his position on the reggae music scene, that would all turn around that year when he would arrive at Joe Gibbs' studio on 24 Retirement Crescent in Kingston, reportedly initially employed there again in his role as security guard. Prince Farai would soon begin recording a series of sides at Joe Gibbs' studio that would truly put him on the reggae music map. He would update the Deck of Cards lyric over the Sata Masagana rhythm track as played by Joe Gibbs' house band, The Professionals, who had perfected a crisp, somewhat commercially oriented variation of the then popular Rockers rhythm track. Rain a Fall would see Prince Farai bemoaning poverty and calling for food for the poor, declaring that food is the staff of life and that he, Prince Farai, is the Prince of Peace. You I Love and Not Another would see the more romantic side of Prince Farai on display, not averse to the occasional love song, a more tender, gentle side of the gruff Prince Farai. Sharp Knife, meanwhile, would voice over the debut single by another group then recording at Joe Gibbs' studio, Culture, with their song This Time. Tribute to Michael Holding would be a cricket-themed song recorded at Joe Gibbs, paying tribute to a famous cricket player of the time. These sides, however, would pale in comparison to the one that would really put Prince Farai on the map. 1976 saw a state of emergency declared in Jamaica due to increasing crime and politically motivated violence, as commemorated on a Joe Gibbs and the Professionals instrumental album of the time, State of Emergency. A particular phrase used by the socialist-leaning government of the time was under heavy manners, referring to how lawbreakers would be dealt with severely, those who were found in possession of weapons. In particular, Under Heavy Manners would lend its title to the big hit Prince Farai was looking for. It would be voiced over a song that had already been recorded at Joe Gibbs' studio by singer Nago Morris as Susu Pan Rasta. Farai would marshal all his impassioned and gruff delivery to voice that song as Heavy Manners, bemoaning the state of emergency and the government's approach to the situation, declaring that manners is like unto a dog, and saying that war in the West, war in the East, war up north and war down south. Crazy Joe, get them out. Crazy Joe, the nickname of Joe Gibbs himself. That side would be the major hit that Prince Farai was looking for. Under Heavy Manners would give its name to his LP recorded at Joe Gibbs' studio, the first full-length debut LP produced by Joe Gibbs, with rhythms played by the Professionals Band and given a whip-smart mix down by the great recording engineer Errol Thompson. Prince Farai, Under Heavy Manners, absolute classic of the DJ canon. This is an early pressing on the Joe Gibbs Record Globe label. Interestingly, a couple of tracks feature synthesizer overdubs on here, not present on other versions. As well as those songs. Big Fight would be another sort of storytelling Prince Farai song in which he takes a ringside seat at a fictional boxing match between Natty Dread and Babylon. Natty Dread emerging as the underdog to score the knockout punch and take the title from Babylon. And of course, Boz Rock. Several of these songs would feature enthusiastic vocal interjections by lead singer Joseph Hill of the group Culture, also then recording their epical series of songs at Joe Gibbs' studio. Joseph Hill and Prince Farai beginning to move very closely together, moving in one accord and einity together. Prince Farai, Under Heavy Manners, a massive hit that put Prince Farai on the map, would do well in England and lead directly into the next phase of Prince Farai's career, in which he would become even more prolific and be picked up by a major record label. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. My look at Prince Farai will continue next time.
Rain or fall, but don't be tough. Don't bluff. Is this the right stuff? Why time rough? Now tell you I am. It's hard, it's hard, it's hard. Rain or fall, but don't be tough. I want some food, 'cause we need some food. Mister, give me some food. Why the barrel can't stand up? This is a big fight. Babbling versus dreadlocks. On my left, babbling wearing a white shirt and weighing 250 pounds. On my right, now the dreadlocks wearing red, green, and gold shorts and weighing 150 pounds. Security force the referee. The whole world stands to see this boxing. 15 rounds of boxing. Round one, and the boxing began. Babbling with the lip and around to the head of dreadlocks. You what my good brother got to say. Prince Farai come from Boz Rock with him garment deep in a high tide. White tide. Prince Farai straight from Boz Rock with his garment deep in a high tide. bitch, you get them